All right, today we're taking a trip to the wild west of the sky. It's a part of our airspace that has more freedom and honestly way more responsibility than any other. We are talking about Class G.
You know, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the whole vibe of Class G airspace. It's a world where all the fancy tech kind of takes a back seat to the most fundamental pilot skill there is, simply looking out the window. It is all about self-reliance.
So, what is this stuff exactly? Well, Class G is the only airspace in the US that's officially uncontrolled. Now, what that means is that air traffic control has zero authority and, get this, zero responsibility for separating aircraft. You are on your own. And that is exactly why we call it the Wild West of the sky. So, what does it actually feel like to be flying in this Wild West? Let's dig in and break down what uncontrolled really means when you're up there in the cockpit. Okay, first and foremost, if you're flying under visual flight rules, VFR, which just means you're flying by looking outside, you don't need anyone's permission to be here. There's no controller you have to call for clearance into Class Gulf airspace. That's G for Gulf. You just fly right in. It is a level of freedom that you just won't find anywhere else. And that freedom makes a lot of sense when you see where Class G airspace usually is. It's typically found way out, far from the hustle and bustle of big airports. It blankets the countryside, remote regions, and especially areas with really high terrain, like out in the Mountain West. Basically, it's the sky over places where you're not going to find a lot of air traffic to begin with.
So, if you're a pilot, how do you actually spot this territory on a chart? How do you know when you've crossed the border into the Wild West?
Okay, take a look at this. This diagram really lays it all out perfectly. You can see all those layers for the big airports, Class Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, all stacked up. So where's Class G? Well, look way down at the bottom. It's that foundational layer that just fills in all the gaps where nothing else has been defined. Honestly, this is the easiest way to think about it. Class G is simply what's left over after everything else has been carved out. Imagine the FAA draws all the boundaries for the controlled zones. Whatever airspace is left behind, yep, that's Class Gulf. And on a pilot's navigation chart, this idea shows up in two main ways. In most wide-open, unmarked areas, the controlled airspace, which is Class E, starts at 1,200 feet above the ground. Everything below that is Class G. But if you see one of these faded magenta circles on the chart, that floor of controlled airspace drops down to 700 feet. So in both cases, Class G is the layer of air right underneath. Now hold on. Just because it's called uncontrolled doesn't mean it's a total free-for-all. Oh no. There are still some very important rules out here in the Wild West, the laws of the land, if you will. And that's the key question, isn't it? If ATC isn't in charge, who is? Well, the answer is the regulations are, specifically the visual flight rules. These are the rules that tell a pilot what the minimum weather conditions have to be to fly without needing to rely on instruments. At its most basic, we're talking flying low to the ground during the day. The rules are about as simple as they get. You just need 1 single mile of visibility, and you have to stay clear of clouds. And that means exactly what it sounds like. You can fly right up next to a cloud, just as long as you don't actually go inside it. But at night, things get a bit stricter. The FAA wants more of a safety buffer. Your visibility requirement jumps to 3 statute miles, and you have to keep a specific distance from any clouds. Now, pilots have a great little memory aid for this one. 3 Cessna 152. Think 3 for 3 miles of visibility, and then 152 for the cloud clearance, 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet horizontally. Pretty neat, huh?
And just to keep you on your toes, things change one more time as you climb higher. Let's say you're in Class G, but you're flying above 1,200 feet off the ground and still below 10,000 feet. The rules shift again. During the day, your visibility requirement actually drops back to 1 mile. But now you need that standard cloud separation we just talked about, 500 below, 1,000 above, and 2,000 horizontally.
So when you put all of this together, the locations, the rules, the lack of control, what's the big picture here? Well, it all points to one central theme. Class G is a space of incredible freedom, but that freedom is balanced by a really profound level of pilot responsibility. So let's boil it all down. The key takeaway is this: there's no ATC telling you what to do. In most cases, you don't even need a radio or a transponder. It's just you. That means you are 100% responsible for your own safety. And get this, it's the only airspace where a pilot on an instrument flight plan can actually fly into the clouds, that's called IFR, without getting a clearance from ATC first. That is unheard of anywhere else. Ultimately, in Class G, see and avoid isn't just a good idea, it is the fundamental law.
And that really is the heart of it, isn't it? Class G is kind of a throwback to a simpler time in aviation, a place where the pilot is truly, completely in command. But that freedom comes with a price, and that price is paid with constant vigilance, sharp skills, and a deep, deep respect for the responsibility you have to keep everyone safe.
Which kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As our world and our skies get more and more automated and more controlled, what's the role for a space like Class G? It really challenges us to think about that fundamental balance between top-down control and individual responsibility. And that's a question that's only going to get more important as we fly into the future.